Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 93 of the Former Action Guys podcast. I'm your host, Justin Kramer. And this week I have on adult film star and former Marine. Well, I don't want to say former Marine. You know, he used to be in the Marines. Will Pounder is his stage name. And he was a tech over in the air wing working on different, FLIR systems and stuff. We talk a little bit about that. Spent about 20 minutes talking about his career in the Marine Corps because although he was in the air wing as a tech, he didn't really do so much of that. He actually got pulled onto the all Marine Corps team for jiu-jitsu and stuff. And he spent most of his time training people to fight and fighting over at Camp Pendleton and down in Miramar. So kind of a different career than a lot of people. Got out and then his path into being a adult film star is a weird one. He lost a bet, actually. So he talks about how he got into that. And then I asked him a bunch of questions that I put up a post saying that I was going to be interviewing him on Facebook on one of the groups that we're in. And I had a ton of questions come in for that about the adult film industry and stuff. So it's a really interesting conversation, really great guy. I thought it was not something you would normally hear on this show, but I thought it's a good way to show that there are people that are leaving the Marine Corps and doing all kinds of stuff, you know, not just getting out and going and working at some corporate job or coming out and going back home and working in some factory or something like that. You know, some people are getting out and becoming a porn star, like a lot of guys say they would love to do. He kind of gives us some behind the scenes of how that occurs and all that stuff. And you know what? He's obviously pretty good at it because he won the AVN Awards 2020 Best New Performer in the male category. So good on him. Interesting podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy it. You know,
oh, it really is. But people have this big misconception of what it is and what it is, what I do, and what they think it is and what I do. Mm-hmm. So I try to be as approachable as I can, so I can start getting rid of some of these bullshit taboos and stuff.
No, for sure, man. No, and I totally appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on. Former Action Guys podcast. I know you said you did a couple military ones, but you know, thanks for coming on this one. And we'll go ahead and start with talking about, so you are now an adult entertainer that was a Marine. And I want to go through your Marine Corps career because I think that you are like an up and coming in the adult entertainment industry. You know, you're an award winner now, winning the Best Newcomer Male at the AVN Awards. I think that overshadows probably the stuff that you did in the Marine Corps sometimes. And I'm sure for you that kind of sucks because those are things that you're obviously proud of and stuff. So I'd like to start back with your military career. First off, what made you decide to join the Marine Corps? Like, where are you from? What made you decide to join the Marine Corps specifically? And did you choose your MOS or open contract or?
So I joined, 2007, and I was 19, and I was too smart for my own good growing up. I scored really high on ASVAB. I was that kid in school that pretty much slept through everything but aced all the tests. Things just clicked. It made sense. I had a photographic memory. And I knew I didn't have the discipline to go about life at the time. I was the kind of kid that would play pranks, and I figured out how things work. Like I took two pieces of cardboard and cut them out in the shape of a credit card and glued them together and used double-sided tape and put that on the magnetic strip of the door at the school because I was playing pranks. And then me and my buds, because I grew up in the country, we took a cow and we brought a cow into the school and put it in the upstairs gymnasium. Because you can get a cow to go upstairs, but you can't get one to go downstairs.
See,
and
things city people don't know anything about. You know, I'm from Indiana.
No, they don't. So you get it. And so I was just too smart for my own good, and I wasn't challenged, and I knew I didn't have the discipline I had the self-awareness to know I didn't have the discipline to proceed in life in a good fashion. So I was joining the military. My best friend at the time, he was in Marine Corps boot camp, and I got a letter from him, and he's like, whatever you do, don't join the Marine Corps. It fucking sucks. It's hell, and just started going on this whole rant on how much he hates the Marine Corps, and I was like, well, okay, well, so I went to the Air Force, and he never showed up.
Really?
And I went there my 3 times. Apparently, the guy ended up getting charged with a bunch of stuff, and including never actually being at the office. And but the third time I went in there, I heard a cadence. It was like 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. I was like, what is this sound? Like, this is music to my ears.
That's
Like,
funny.
it like sung with me. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I walk over and I look in the Marine recruiter's door, and there was a bunch of poolies in there working out. And I was like, well, that's something I can get behind. So I went in there, and then I ended up signing up and went out. And my MOS was a 6483. I was electronic countermeasure tech, and I had about a year and a half of school, and I got into bodybuilding. So I got up to about 250 pounds, at around 6%, 7% body fat.
Damn, dude.
I was a wall.
That's
I was
huge.
big. I was not. I lifted weights 3 times a day and ate 9,000 calories a day.
Man, I guess if you're in school for a year and a half, you have like you could set yourself on a pretty solid schedule because you know you're like scheduled at that point. Can we talk? Let's talk. I mean, I don't know what all you could talk about in that kind of schoolhouse, but can you tell us about what that is, what that MOS is about, and kind of what you learn in that schoolhouse for maybe someone that's listening that may be interested in joining it?
So they actually don't have that MOS anymore. Okay. That MOS got phased out, and they're now like 64, 67s, and all it is they just got a different testing equipment. So my A school was all avionics, fundamentals of electronics, essentially. And then the C school was actually what pieces of gear you're working on.
So that's a very specific term to the air wing, the A school, C school thing. Can you explain that? Because I'm a regular. I went to MOS school and then to the fleet kind of guy.
So when you go into a technical field, after you complete boot camp, MCT, and then you go to your technical field. So some schools have an A school, some have additional schooling after that, just depending. So your A school gets you the baseline of information that you need to know to do your job, and then your C school, the follow-up school, is, well, these are the specific type of equipment that you're going to be working on.
What kind of equipment were you working on?
I was working on infrared systems, night vision goggles.
Oh, okay.
Stuff that doesn't really break. Like the helicopters or the C-130s, the big blinking light. It's infrared system, and that's what I worked on.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
One of the things. But
so
yeah.
My audience, like I told you on the phone yesterday. I was a JTAC in the Marine Corps. I was a fire support man, and before that I was a mechanic, a motor team mechanic. And so a lot of my audience comes around the fire support field. So, we work around that kind of stuff a lot of times, the IR sensors, and we work a lot with the air wing and stuff. What kind of... So you're just working on the critical, like just the IR camera itself, like the FLIR system, or?
So I only did my job for about 6 months in the Marine Corps. Like the Military Times was doing a documentary on me before COVID hit, but what I ended up doing is when I got to the fleet, I had my friend, his name was Guthrow, and he looked like he belonged on the cover of Muscle magazine. Like his arms were like, and every day he would come up to me. He's like, "Do my biceps look any bigger?" I was like, "Oh no, bro. They're literally the size of my head. Like,
can they get bigger?"
And then I had like a realization moment. I was like, "This is gonna be me in 5 years if I keep doing this." And so I decided to go train in martial arts. So I told my shop that I was gonna go fight for the Marine Corps, and they all laughed at me, said no one's ever left here and all this kind of stuff. And so every day after work, I would go train, and I was getting my butt kicked. So I started watching YouTube. And then I would take my roommate, and I'd go over to the gym at lunch, and after work, if I wasn't training, to go practice what I learned on YouTube. And I was learning words like unum platas and elevator sweeps, and from what other people were saying at the gym. And so I was just practicing what I learned. Well, I was practicing on a 4x8 square mat, and all of a sudden, like after doing that for like a week or two, like the gym kind of filled up. Like it was a tiny room, and there was over 16 people trying to watch. So the MCS ended up getting me a racquetball court that was matted out. So I started teaching classes to Marines. So I'm learning jiu-jitsu through YouTube, practicing it at the gym that I'm learning, because my instructor only taught one move or one series a week, and then I was teaching the Marines on it at lunchtime. And then after that, at about 2-3 months, the racquetball court filled up to where we had over 30 people, and then we got all up to 60 people, and we couldn't even fit everybody into the racquetball court. Well, 6 months into the fleet, I double gold medaled at a tournament, and then the all-Marine team cut me PTAD orders to go be on the team. So during this whole phase, I became friends with a warrant officer that helped us get a 10,000 square foot mat next to the physical therapy point. And so we got up to over 100 Marines in those classes, and my entire upper chain of command, well, not all of it, but good people that are very, very high up in my direct chain of command were actually my students.
Oh, that's cool.
And so what ended up happening is when those PTAD orders came in and I routed them, my shop said no. But when that got routed up the chain of command, everyone was like, "Oh, he's my Marine. He's going out there representing the Marine Corps." Da, da, da. So they ended up approving it. So I went up to go be on the All Marine submission grappling team.
Legit, man. See, that's one of those things where you hear about like guys complain about their command screwing them over, and that's one of those. You know, you could easily have gotten screwed over in that moment had you like not, you know, had a relationship with those other people that were above the people within your shop.
I didn't know they were my direct chain of command until after I got out.
Oh, really?
I had no idea. I didn't know who anybody was. I was a Lance Corporal that knew nobody, and I just wanted to learn jiu-jitsu, and I was teaching other people that wanted to learn jiu-jitsu, and my classes just kept getting bigger and bigger. So I taught the class how I was taught. And there was this, I don't even know his rank. I know he was something to do with the base command level. Mm-hmm. And he comes into my class and he's talking. And when I was in Barrett Yoshida's class, I was talking with my bud, and he told me to shut the fuck up and give him 20 burpees. I was like, okay. So I shut up and I gave him 20 burpees and continued the class. Well, he was talking with his buddy. So I pointed at him. I said, shut the fuck up and give me 20 burpees. And he responded with, do you know who I am? I looked at him. I said, I don't give a fuck who you are. Give me 20 burpees or there's the door. And then I went back to teaching my class.
That's funny.
So I told like a fucking lieutenant colonel to shut the fuck up and give me 20 burpees, basically.
Well, I mean, hey, in that moment, you know, he's not in charge of you. That's like, I mean, technically he is, but, you know, that's like a different, you step into a world like that, some kind of training like that, you know, you give up some of that authority that you have because you're there as a student now, you know, so that's pretty legit. And having that, a lot of guys wouldn't have the, you know, ability to say something like that, you know, especially new guys to the fleet. You were a little, how old were you at this time? You're like 19, 20?
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. It's the all Marine sports teams are kind of interesting because I know like the Army and stuff, they really get behind theirs. They use those guys as like marketing tools for a lot of the teams, you know, and a lot of them compete in the Olympics and stuff like that.
I became a poster boy. I met with
it becomes like their unit is doing that sport only. And I know some guys have told me, and you know, you're like one of the first that's I've been able to sit down and have like an in-depth conversation about this, but some guys have told me that the Marine Corps is not necessarily like that they still expect you to deploy, you still have training that you got to do, you still have, I mean, because you're there to be a Marine, not to come and be a jiu-jitsu or a baseball player or a basketball player.
I got put on 2 deployments.
Okay.
And so basically what ended up happening was the MCS program I was running was the biggest extracurricular activity that MCS had. They had the biggest turnout.
That's awesome.
And so when I got put on deployment, I went out to Yuma, Arizona because we were doing a workup, and I was out there for 3 days, and I get called into the CO's office. I was like, oh great,
here we go.
You know what did I do this time? You know, and I was, like I said, I was too smart for my own good. Like I got out of the barracks because I didn't want to live in the barracks because they're full of black mold. So I pulled some strings. Yeah, I got what I want in the military. Like you either work the system or the system works you. And I read all of the SOPs for how things worked. You know, once you understand how things work, you know how to mitigate and go through the channels. Yeah. And anyhow, so I ended up getting called in the CO's office, and he's asked, so what do you do in Miramar? And I was like, I choke people. And he kind of laughed and he says, well, most people tell me they're MOS, but I guess you're going back to Miramar. And so I remember this because my staff NCO, he was my C school instructor. And every time I got called into the front office all the time, but none of it was actually for anything bad. It was always for doing something. Like I'd bring UFC fighters in for the MCS event or something like that. I was always getting called in. And every time I get called to the front office, my staff NCO had to escort me, and same with my gunny. And this time I'll never forget his face because you've heard of OFP, right? So I get called in there, and my captain says, we've tried to put you on 2 different deployments, and you've been sent back to us to run your martial arts program. So as of now, you are on your your own program. And my staff sergeant's face just dropped. He was like, the fuck?
So there you are, TAD, permanently to go teach people how to fight. And it all started with watching some videos off YouTube, huh?
Literally.
Did you take any?
It started by accident.
Did you take any kind of formal training outside of that? No. Have you since?
Well, I went professional in 10.5 months. So when I made it to the All Marine team, 4.5 months into being on the team, I did my first professional tournament and won. And I got into the advanced and pro leagues of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, that's legit. What were your before we get into all that, what were your requirements for the All Marine team? Like, how did your practices go? Like, how often did you guys do that? I mean, did they pull you in? Are there people all over the world from the Marines that do this, or only at Miramar?
No, I was actually at Pendleton, so I had to commute to Pendleton to go train. And I had after 4.5 months, I began teaching. So I started teaching and running all the classes, and I ran them. So I had a Marine for 2 weeks. I had them for 6 months, but in 2 weeks they had to be on par to represent the Marine Corps and go and compete. So I had to train with. So I trained with each individual Marine to figure out what their natural tendencies were. Some people cater more towards arms, some people more towards head. So I just kind of feel people out on what their natural reactions are to things, and then I taught them one move, one pass, like one series, essentially just one series, and they drilled it for 8 hours a day for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we won it, and we won every tournament.
Just brilliance in the basics, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It was crazy. It was crazy.
So, go ahead.
And so we had teammates literally from all over the world.
That's awesome, man. So, what was like your best tournaments? Like, what's the top tournament that you could win while you're on the Marine Corps, or any kind of armed forces? What's like the pinnacle?
Oh, we didn't just compete in armed forces. Like, they had armed forces tournaments, and the Army was in there a lot. But like we cleaned house on every single one we went to. But we competed with like civilians, like in the actual. I mean, we competed.
This is the place for it. San Diego is like,
it's
or
Mecca.
Southern California, I should say, is like jiu-jitsu, like Mecca. Yeah, for sure. My kid was going to Oceanside Jiu-Jitsu up in Oceanside, obviously, prior to COVID happening. And now
Who was the instructor?
Nat is his first name. I can't remember. I don't know his full name. You can look him up. They're on Oceanside Jiu-Jitsu, though, for all those out there. Yeah, we enjoyed that. It's right off the base, so that was a good spot.
His name's Nat. I think he was actually on the Marine team, because there's one of the guys I trained with back in the day runs a gym up in Oceanside.
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't know if he was ever in the Marines or anything, but there's a lot of Marines that go to his classes and stuff like that. But yeah, it's such a good sport. Like, I never did it as a kid. You know, I was a Taekwondo kid back in the day. I grew up and saw like what's that? They just came out with it again. Cobra Kai, freaking. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, they just came out with those. And so I was like in Taekwondo and stuff, and I knew my kid wanted to do like jiu-jitsu. Or he wanted to do, he just said he wanted to be a ninja as a little kid. And like jiu-jitsu was like one of those, like, you know, easy for him to get into. And I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to. Do you think it's like, how have you used it in like your personal life to make you a better person, you think? Because a lot of people say that it helps them overall, not just as like a self-defense mechanism.
Well, one, it's a lifestyle, but two, so like, you ever hear that saying, you play chess with a man, you know how you play chess with a person, you know how they think. If you grapple a person, you not only know how they think, you know how they problem solve, you know how they live. You can tell a whole bunch about someone just based off of how they fight. Lifestyle wise, learning jiu-jitsu is a struggle. It's harder than getting a doctorate in college. You start to get better and you start going up, and then you hit a plateau, and then you have to change things, and your skill level is going to drop back down, and then it starts to go back up. So you start learning how to solve conflicts, and a lot of it's like internal in your own head. Some of it's structural with like who you're fighting with. You have to like dissect problems with other people. So it's like a problem solving environment, you know, so you literally learn how to think.
That's awesome, man. Oh, go ahead.
So honestly, I use principles that I learned through the Marine Corps and through jiu-jitsu with literally everything.
That's legit.
It's literally the building blocks for success.
So how did you, you know, you're doing all this in the Marine Corps, which is definitely not something the average person does. The average person that comes onto my show is like someone that's been doing some crazy stuff. You know, a lot of times they've, you know, been in combat and stuff like that. And it's just, you had a completely different like path, you know, as a Marine. And that's not saying that's a bad thing or anything like that. It's just, I want to show people out there that there's not just one kind of person in the military that just went through and just saw crazy combat and did all this crazy stuff. How do you look at your time in the Marine Corps, you know, on that path when you see all these other Marines that have done their own paths, like a war path and stuff like that?
For me, I just kind of go where the wind blows. I didn't intend for it to go that way. It just kind of happened. Personally, I wanted to go on the deployments that I got pulled off of because I was living in Miramar. I was making like $800-900 every 2 weeks. I was barely making it like month to month. If I'd had one deployment, it would have given me a buffer zone, so I wasn't having to like make sure I make it to the chow hall at 4:30 in the morning just to get breakfast.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it sounds all like hunky dory, but it's just, you know, I think everybody that goes into the military, they have a different experience. Some love it, some hate it. Some become martial arts experts and poster boys. You know, it just.
What made you decide to transition out then? You only did one enlistment, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
So at what point did you decide like, hey, I'm kind of done with this. I'm going to move along?
So I got, not to toot my own horn, but I got really good at jiu-jitsu. I went professional in 10.5 months. I was really, really, really good. Just to put it this way, Big John McCarthy knew who I was back then, and I fought I broke my back out of the Marine Corps. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah, we'll go in chronological order, so we don't get out of order. So I got out because I made it onto Team Black House, and my teammates were the Noguera brothers, Junior Dos Santos, Anderson Silva, because they had a gym that was like right outside the base. So I was like, you know what? I feel that I have the skills that I can take to actually take it to a professional level in MMA, and so I was transitioning to go do that. And then so that's why I got out. After I got out, I was on the team for about 2.5 months. And my back started hurting, so I went to the VA hospital, and they gave me muscle relaxers. Well, when I took those, by the time I made it to the exit of the door, I couldn't move my legs. Turns out, after I had MRIs done and surgeons look at the MRIs and stuff, I had fractured my L5. It was like ka-chink. Jeez. And he said the time frame was back when I was at MCT. The only event that happened in MCT that could have done that was my bud, who's, you know, you're like your battle buddy, who's pretty much the person you kind of rely on to help get through like the bullshit. He sprained his ankle on the last hike to graduate. And you know, if you get injured in training, you're stuck on med hold, and it's kind of a shitty experience. So the sergeant just got done telling us about never leaving a Marine behind. So I threw him over my shoulder. Keep in mind, at the time, I was about 250 pounds, built like a wall.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, you know, like I'm 200 pounds right now. Like I don't think I could have done it at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
but I threw him and his pack over my shoulder, and we just did the whole hike. And the sergeant went to go yell at me, and I told him, "You just got done telling us about never leaving a Marine behind." And I kind of disrespectfully just turned away and started walking, but he didn't stop me. So I was like, "All right." So we both ended up graduating, but that was like the only event that could have like actually fractured my back.
Damn. So from MCT on, you had a broken back and you didn't realize it? Or it had like what was like a small fracture and it just healed improperly, and over years it just kind of...
Nope. It was, according to the MRI, so if this was like your vertebrae, it was like ka-chink.
That's crazy.
Like it was, yeah, it's actually still broke to this day. The FDA, or the VA, they wanted to fuse my back. And fortunately, I became really good friends with a body worker, and she works with like a lot of professional athletes, like the Chargers football teams, all that. And so she started doing work on me, and got to the point where I was able to walk again.
Oh.
But I was out for 2 years. Like, it was literally overnight, broke my back, no more fighting. I was like, well, I got the GI Bill, so I guess I'll go to school.
Oh, really? You were out? So
yeah.
You were recovering for 2 years from that? Damn, man. That's crazy. I got it. So when you got in the ring with some like legitimate professional UFC dudes, they finished it off, huh? And made it to where you couldn't go for 2 more years.
No, I couldn't walk.
No,
Like,
I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
like,
It's just like it happened to occur like the finishing. Like it got to the point where it was
yeah.
right at that same point. Uh,
Well, what it was is I was training, like when I was in the Marines, I was training 6 to 8+ hours a
yeah,
day.
for sure.
When I went to go fight with the pro guys, they train once, maybe twice a day. So there's a lot of
Oh,
downtime. And so
that was actually like a break on
muscles
you.
and everything, yeah, muscles started getting more tense and they weren't as limber throughout the day. And that's kind of what actually did it in.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying, man. Okay. So you decided to go to school. Did you say you also went to state?
No, I went to National University.
Oh, okay, okay. I know you said you. Oh, you live down in this area though. We had for those
Yeah.
we had this conversation. We talked a little bit yesterday on the phone, so we
Yeah.
were talking about that. Yeah, dude, San Diego's not a bad spot to be at. It sucks during COVID, but it is what it is.
Yeah, everywhere kind
How'd
of
you
is,
like?
especially in California.
How'd you like going to school at National? What'd you study there, and would you recommend it to other people?
I liked it. It works really well with the military. 1 month long classes, one class at a time. So it works really well with the GI Bill. Um, so what ended up happening after that? So when my back was broke, I ended up, moving to a place where it was cheap and did online classes because it was I couldn't really walk around very
Yeah.
easily. And so I was doing online classes and barely skating by on on disability and stuff. It literally barely skated by because I didn't really get a whole lot,
Yeah, I feel like they didn't come back and reassess you after you like couldn't walk.
Well, I'm still dealing with that shit, but I'm like, I've already kind of rehabilitated everything. Like, I don't know. I think if it was like anyone else that just kind of gave up, like, I would have just been like left in a ditch,
Yeah.
Like, I was just too stupid to quit. That's what it boiled down to.
Yeah. So what got you into like your movie making ventures?
Oh man, you want the full story?
Yeah, well, let's talk in depth, man, because I was telling you that I've done all this via YouTube, like learning on YouTube and stuff like that, and I know you said you started off making some stuff, through the YouTube as well, like figuring everything out how to do things. So let's hear it.
So I learned most of jiu-jitsu through
Yep.
YouTube. But let's see. So when I broke my back, I started playing this video game called Elder Scrolls Online, and I reverse engineered the algorithms of it. Ended up, me and my 4 friends, we ended up beating everybody on the server. I met with the developers, and I made friends with this guy who was the owner of a change management specialist firm. So he sent me a problem that they were working on, and I sent him what I would do in that situation, and then he ended up hiring me. So I started as a change management specialist. After doing that for almost a year, I got really fat. Like I got really big. I was like 250 pounds of fat. I had the diet of a professional athlete with no training.
Yeah.
Like I just got big, and I was like, I ended up having type 2 bipolar getting like set in. So it's just like a whole cascade of like a broken back, I can't walk. Mental health became like a huge issue. And it was just a cascade. I remember waking up and I was like in my living room. I was like, it's like, when you get out of the military, it kind of sucks. Like you lose, like, everybody just kind of disappears.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I was like, I remember I was sitting in my living room. I was like, man, I used to be the happiest motherfucker around. I was like, I'm not happy no more. I was like, I looked down. I was like, all I see is my belly. I was like, all right. So I started out doing push-ups on my knees. I started walking, and once it started hurting, I would push it as far as I can until I couldn't even like stand the pain anymore, and then I'd rest, and then I'd do it again. And then in 3 months, I lost 55 pounds, and then started feeling real good. Then I was sitting in my living room again. I was like, yep, still not happy. I didn't like where I was living at, so I was like, all right. So I started applying for applications. I got a quality assurance inspection job at UCSD. And so I moved back out to San Diego, and so I liked it there. I was happy there. I got on these. I was taking these. So there's going to be like 2 parts of the story. One part is like the mental illness and the journey of how like I overcame that, and then started helping other people that, and it happens in conjunction with everything else that's going. So basically, let's go down the mental illness path first, and then we'll relay that back onto what's happening.
Sure.
So what happened was I was I was diagnosed type 2 bipolar. It was genetic based. And so I was in mania for 9 to 11 months out of the year. Once a year, I'd hit about a normal state where I would look back through all the pictures on my phone and I would only recognize like maybe 10 or 20% of them.
Really?
And so I just didn't really remember my life at all. And so I ended up taking this nootropic called Q96, and I started feeling angry. I was feeling emotions. I didn't know what emotions were. And so that I was like, well, I'm never angry, so these are making me angry. So I quit taking them. Well, I went back into a mania and hypomania for another year. And then the second time I came out, I had knee surgery on my left knee from a jiu-jitsu injury. You know, Marines, jiu-jitsu, knees are hell.
Always something.
And then so when I hit normal again, same thing. Like I look at my phone, I don't remember the last year, and I don't remember the year before that. So I'm like, I felt like I was like a 30-year-old, like I don't even know what the fuck's going on. So I tried checking myself into the VA mental health ward, and they never got back to me. And so I relapsed right back into it again. And so there goes another year. That's the third time it came through. I had knee surgery on the same knee again because the first knee surgery that I got through the VA didn't work. Go figure. And
some shitty luck with the VA, man.
Oh man, it's been hell with them. So
yeah, I bet.
I was like, anyhow. So then after that, I got back on the Q96, and so I started feeling emotion. So I was like, well, why am I feeling this way? And then I realized it was, the things that I lived through in the past. So I started reliving those things and processing them out as an adult, and it kind of felt a lot lighter afterwards. I was like, okay, so that's the purpose of emotions. I went through puberty essentially, so then I started studying what's actually happening in a bipolar mind. Because most people just know as like, oh, they just have crazy mood swings. Yeah, but like what is causing it? So if I look at it like a computer, because I'm really good at breaking things down and understanding how things work. So if the human brain, everyone knows that it's like the computer of the body. It uses your five senses to formulate what it thinks reality is, right? So you have different types of bipolar people, but it seems to be always centered around emotions, anger, happiness, sadness. It seems to be highly functional. So it's correlated into the emotional campus of the brain. So I started looking at the dietary trends on a macro scale, and our parents and their parents and their parents were taught not to eat fats. Well, what is the brain mostly made of? It's mostly made of fat. If you're eating lots of processed foods and all this kind of stuff, you're not getting the nutrients that your body needs. And I've studied physics since I was a little kid, and I was listening to this physics conference that this doctor was speaking at, which I was really fascinated because why is the doctor speaking at a physics conference?
Yeah.
And he was talking about how there's like bioelectricity in the body, and talking about how cells create electricity, and then you've got battery packs in your body, and then and how he was like, oh, that's fascinating. And then he mentioned something about maintenance levels and treatment levels of different nutrients, where like a vitamin E at a daily dose does one thing, but at an extremely high dose, it does something completely different. And in some scales, it even has a completely different name other than vitamin E, even though it is just vitamin E. So that blew me away. And so when I started, then I started burying through forums of other people that had bipolar, and it seemed to be that a high-fat diet actually seemed to curb it. So then I did more research, and I found out that your body only absorbs 5% of the omega-3s that you consume. So you have a pipeline issue. So what I did is I started testing. I used myself as a test dummy to figure out, well, okay, my brain's working now. I got rid of all caffeine, all sugar, and I changed my whole diet up to eat a whole bunch of fats like avocados, walnuts, salmons, like flax milk. I flooded my system with omega-3s, and I could feel it was making a difference, but it was like kind of scratching the surface. It wasn't quite enough. And that's when I found out that the pipeline issue of 5%. And so then it turns out there's different herbs, and I don't remember the names of them. There's a company that makes them that actually helps with the breakdown and transportation of omega-3s. So after doing this, I started taking those, and it worked. It's like I had all the processing power of being in mania and hypomania, but with like a working brain. It was like the coolest thing ever. It felt like I was alive for the first time.
Crazy, man.
And then so what I did is I would see how long I could take it, and then not take it, and see when I would start getting the bipolar effects back. And so I'd take it for 2 weeks, and then after quit taking it, it usually took anywhere from 5 days to about a week for the symptoms to start slowly coming back. But I was watching for them, so when I could feel them, I was like, okay, back onto it again. And then I remembered that physics conference about that doctor. So what I did is I tripled the dosage of omega-3s from the fish oils, like the high quality fish oils and the Q96. And I did that for 3 months straight. So no caffeine, no sugar, super clean diet, worked out, because when you move your body, it excites the mitochondria in your system, creating electricity. If you have the electricity in your body, it causes the chemical reactions to happen in your body. And then I flooded my system with nutrients. 3 months later, I quit taking them. And then I had really close friends. I told them, this is what I'm doing. And I was like, if you feel like I'm going back into mania or hypomania for whatever reason, if I can't check it, like talk to me. So I checked in with it, and then it never came back.
That's legit.
And so I spent a whole year after that helping other people everywhere from Navy pilots who've been kicked out of the military for bipolar, and to just, people just started referring people to me that had type 1 and type 2 bipolar. And so I told them, I was like, well, this is what relationships felt like to me. And I would explain what it felt like, and everything resonated with them. Usually could tell when they got tears in their eyes, and they're like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. And then I told them, this is what I did to fix it. And so to this day, every single person that went with me, they live happy lives right now. They're not controlled. And then I even went to freaking psychiatrists because I was like, I want a backup plan. What if this doesn't work? I wanted a backup plan. I don't want to miss another year of my life. I hate waking up once a year and looking back and I don't recognize
what
anything.
just happened?
Yeah, so I wanted a backup plan. So I went to psychiatrists and I explained to them what's going on, what I did, and how I fixed it. And the only thing that they were telling me is, well, you need to take lithium. And I was like, are you not listening to me?
What does that do?
And
What does lithium do?
Lithium is what they use to help balance out the salts in the brain, is what they call them, to help treat bipolar. But really, what it does is it kind of zombifies you. It numbs you. But the side effects of lithium increases white matter mass in the brain. The side effects are actually worse than than bipolar itself.
Did you work with any doctors or anything on any of this, or was this all your own research and stuff?
This was everything that I found off of the internet, YouTube, forums, everything like that.
And I'm gonna interject real quick. And when you say that you found stuff on YouTube, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you did his research on YouTube." Hey, man, I'm at a 4-year university right now, and half of the videos I watch, if not more, come off YouTube that our professors tell us to watch. So the people out there that are hating on someone that says they did research and some of that information was pulled off YouTube videos, I don't think they fully understand the vast amount of information that's available on YouTube, and the vast amount of professionals, doctors, physicists, mechanics, everything on YouTube, and how you can find things about it.
You've got the experts in fields that do talks and conferences, and they they have the I know physics because they bring all the people that are the new forward thinkers in physics, and they speak at a physics conference. They do the same thing in the medical field too.
I started before I started this last semester. I couldn't do it because I took 6 classes and I was just too busy. But before this semester, MIT releases courseware video, and I started on their computer science department watching their videos on Python, because that's the new thing everyone's talking about. Or it's not the new thing, but it's becoming more prevalent in everyday use. You can use it more and more. Python, which is a coding type, for those that don't know what I'm talking about. It's like a coding language. But it's that's the kind of information that you can go on and find and formulate your own. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying your plan is correct or anything like that. I'm not endorsing your any kind of medical advice here, but I am saying that research and finding out what works for you via YouTube and stuff like that isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're doing it right and you go through reputable sources and stuff. And it sounds like you switched to basically a keto diet and then just kind of upped your supplements and stuff.
So no, I actually didn't do keto because I didn't think keto worked on a high performance diet.
Really?
Or as a I didn't think, because ketones have a low energy output, and I didn't recently figure that out until probably 6 months ago. And that's a different story. I studied nutrition at the Yin Yang.
Okay.
I eat for my blood type. That is a big thing that I found in CrossFit. But I just found out that I needed a lot of healthy fats in the brain and cut out all the bad shit.
Yeah.
And anyhow, so I when I was doing my research, I wasn't doing my research to help other people. I was doing the research to be how the fuck do I not forget another
For sure.
year. Like that was it. So it was like, it was YouTube. I was going through forums. I was reading all the comments on forums of what other people did that had bipolar, how they, and there's common denominators. It was a high fat, like high healthy fat diets and no sugar, no caffeine, and all that kind of stuff. So I did all that kind of research on it. I was like, all right, well, I got this regimen. I think this will work. I let my close friends know, like, this is what I'm doing, and hopefully it works. And just through dumb luck, perseverance, and a will not to quit, it just ended up working.
Awesome, man. Well, that's good, man. I think a lot of people need to figure out what works for them and stop taking like advice, like the general advice, because the general advice sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Everybody's, they're their own person and they have their own specific issues. So I think that's really smart of you to seek out. Like, I can't imagine what that's like. I don't know. I'm not bipolar. I don't know if I know anyone that is. I'm sure I do, but I don't really know what that world's like. So I can't imagine. And I'm sure it was like you said, it was crazy for you to be processing things with a clear mind and, not, what do you call it? In mania? Okay. You want to describe what those are?
So in type 1 bipolars, they only experience mania, and that's like the highs. A type 1 bipolar tends to have mood swings multiple times in a week. It's ups and downs. Most of that is directly diet related.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would get it when I was helping a lot of people that had type 1 bipolar. It was literally cleaning out the diet, eating healthy fats, quit eating fast food all the time, quit eating so much sugar and quit overdosing on caffeine every day.
Yeah.
Just fix your freaking diet, and that would fix everything up.
Yeah.
Type 2 is what I had, is also genetic based. And so type 2s have what's called, you have mania, which is you get that high, but then you have what's called hypomania, which is like feelings of grandeur. Like every idea you think is going to be the greatest and biggest idea that there ever was. I mean, you can almost think Kanye West. But,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, but everyone knows he's bipolar as well.
Yeah. Kanye, the thing about Kanye West is he says some crazy shit. But I also think a lot of the crazy shit he says is taken out of context. And
it is.
I think I watched him on Joe Rogan, and again, he said a lot of crazy shit.
That was an interesting one.
But he also went in depth on some stuff and explained his thought process, which made it make more sense. It was like, oh, okay. I see what you're saying there.
There's this common denominator. What I found with everyone that was bipolar is and I have the hypothesis of why. Every person I found that was bipolar was incredibly intelligent in whatever their field was. I'm talking like they're either engineers or incredibly good at whatever it is they're doing. And so my hypothesis is the emotional campus of the brain's not working. They had to learn emotions. So the intellectual side of the brain has been overworking the majority of its life. But it's literally a common denominator. Every time I find someone that's bipolar, they're usually smart as fuck.
Yeah. Well, hey, it happens. It could be. Did you have any issues with this while you were in the Marine Corps though?
No, I was incredibly healthy.
Yeah.
I literally fought and trained. I didn't drink. I didn't party. I was literally training, and I was as healthy as you can be.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I didn't really, I wouldn't have even known.
So you've gotten off the couch, you've kind of figured it out. You started to help other people. What's the next step in your story?
So this all happened. So I ended up going out to California. I was a quality assurance inspector. And so I was doing that, and then I wanted to be a project manager. Well, they didn't have a quality assurance inspector at UCSD, and that's where I taught it. So I started the program. Well, I found a bunch of problems within the campus, so I put them all into a folder, into a sheet, and then I put my resume at the bottom of it, and I gave it to the assistant director. And he created the job of project manager and promoted me to the position.
What a smart thing to do, man. Take real quick, just you take hold of your own destiny right there. That's I say that so many times on this podcast for people to take hold of their own destiny and like create your own thing. That's an awesome thing. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. I did the same thing in the Marine Corps. Like I got put on my own. I got put on my own pro. I was a lance corporal and I got paid to do jujitsu. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You just got to be smart
and have the balls to take that first step to do it.
Yeah. So I did that, and so he ended up promoting me to the position, and it was 70 hours worth of work, and I could contractually only do 40 hours work a week. So I used Excel, and I automated the entire system. I had work orders and the availabilities of companies automatically populate with the availabilities of the areas that needed work on. And so I turned like 70 hours worth of work a week down to about 5, 6, or 7 hours a week. And so I freed up my time. Well, at the same time, I kept getting told I looked like Ryan Reynolds. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go do a film festival just to be like a check mark in a box. So I go do this film festival, and I played the host of a Sexaholic Anonymous class for political comedy. And then I played an action hero in an action film. Well, in that film, we had this warehouse for an hour. So we had to do this whole fight sequence in this warehouse. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to fight like 8 guys or something like that. Nobody knew martial arts. And we had it for an hour. And so I told the director, I was like, do you mind if I choreograph it? And he's like, yeah, but we got to be out of here at this time. I was like, okay. So I grabbed everyone. I was like, all right, so here's the deal. You guys are going to fight me for real. Just pull your punches. You'll know when you're going to knock out. Just roll with it. If you Hollywood it, you're going to get hurt. First take, we're going at it. One guy Hollywoods a reaction, ends up eating a knee to the face. I call cut. I bring everybody in. I was like, look, if you Hollywood it, I can't predict where your center of gravity is going to be. You're going to get hurt. Fight me like you normally would in a real fight, and I'll make sure nobody gets hurt. I was like, okay. So they held action. We ran it straight through. The director was like, what the fuck? Like, he was blown away. And so I started getting booked side gigs as a project manager to the point where I was making more money on the side than I was as a project manager.
That's awesome. So you're working at UCSD and you're doing these film gigs. Where were you guys doing? Where were you doing like film work like that at?
These are all in San Diego.
Oh, really? Okay.
And they don't really pay a whole lot, but the amount that I was doing started to equate. Like I worked, because when you turn like 40 hours or 70 hours a week down to 7, you kind of can leave work a little bit early because you're all done, you know?
Yeah.
So I was able to fill in and line them all up, and they would literally hold the studio open or wait for me to get done for me to go in and film. Like I was doing commercials. Like there's one I was on this the whole room was a green screen, and I was dressed up as like a superhero with a jumpsuit on, like, you know, so I could like run up along the walls. That's and awesome. Stuff. And
that's like legit like movie making stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of talk to how people can get involved? I've had my friend from First Anglico came on, Chris Walker. We were on the same Supporting Arms Liaison team. He is now an actor in New York. He's been in a couple things on Netflix. He's been on like oh my god, I feel like an asshole for getting everything now. But he's been on a few things. What's that one Marvel like comic book show Punisher. He was on Punisher. Anyway.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he came on and kind of talked about the Hollywood stuff or getting into acting a little bit and stuff like that. But he was on just an audio version only. I think you're the first guy that I've had on that's done acting in the video version or in that world. So you want to talk a little bit about that world itself and how to get into it? You know, I guess I don't know what we want to call it, normal acting, not necessarily adult video acting.
So that was separate than mainstream Hollywood. Okay. Mainstream Hollywood's its own enigma. It's you either know somebody or good fucking luck. You know,
I mean, like doing what you're doing, like grind, or what you were doing, like grinding and going and doing these things. Isn't that kind of one way to do it, though? Like get your name out there. You know, you become like a dependable person within that community.
And that was in San Diego's got a smaller film studio. It doesn't really work with LA that much. Most people have to commute to LA to do that. It was just small jobs, and it wasn't like I was getting paid buku bucks. And right now, because like the way that the internet is and the studios are and all that kind of stuff, your average actor is like 35 to 55,000 a year. Like you're not really making a whole lot. And they're even, just to avoid union fees, they'll take a lot of shows. Like I was hanging out with the guy like the Red Power Ranger or something, and he said they're filming in New Zealand because that way they don't have to pay residuals forever. Like they'll film the show in New Zealand, and now because of like those laws, they don't have to pay residuals for life.
That's crazy.
You know, so it's like I just like whatever. And then so what ended up happening is I filmed this military TV show. And so when I filmed the military TV show, honestly, I shouldn't even been on the TV show. I was cutting weight to do a fitness competition, and I ended up actually underwear modeling. So I started making money instead of having to pay to go do it. And I was cutting weight. I was angry. My computer wasn't working. I told him, I was like, I didn't know what a video reel was, or like a video or what is it, a video audition.
Yeah, okay.
I never done that, and he's like, don't forget to slate it. And so I was like, okay. So I'll tell you, like I got for I was like, I'm just gonna submit him something. Like I'm a man of my word. I don't even care about the job. It's like, so I told him my name's Will motherfucking, and I was like, just put it out there. And then I read the script verbatim, monotone. Like I didn't even like I was over it. Well, they paused it after I said my name. I said Will motherfucking, and then they paused it and they said, that's the guy.
Get him. Get that dude.
And so that's how I ended up on the show. And that's how I ended up getting into the adult industry, because they had an adult film star that was on the show and she wanted to shoot a scene. Well, I didn't want to do that because I thought that was going to mess with my acting career. And so I was like, well, I don't think it's a good idea. So we ended up making a bet. And I was like, all right, well, I already have plane tickets that are bought. I'm shooting a commercial for a resort and an island, and I'm playing Captain America at Comic-Con. And the production had to book around that. So I was like, you know what? If those both cancel, then sure, why not? And I shit you not, like, I got on the set the next day, 7 a.m. My agent calls me. He's like, hey, I got some bad news, man. The resort canceled and Comic-Con's off. I was like, are you serious?
Oh, my God.
And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry about that, man. I was like, well, all right. And so I went and shot. And
Did your first porn that way, huh? Or
yeah, I almost, part of me thought it was kind of a prank because I was pranking everybody on the TV show, and then when I go and shoot it, they took the first take of every acting, and I was like, I didn't even get into character, and the director was like, "This is the best acting ever," and I was like, "Well,
yeah,
okay."
sure, man. Okay. That's crazy. So it all started because of a bet.
Yeah.
And you just kind of found a niche that you worked well in and just kept going, huh?
Yeah, so I did that for, I think did it for like 6 months, and now this kind of overlaps with the bipolar story.
Okay.
Like I said, I had to tell them separately, so now you know where they overlap. So what happened is when I went to go film this TV show, I used to get these cold pressed fish oils, and that was actually, I was taking enough for my brain to function. That's why I was doing really, really well at UCSD. But when I went out in the desert to go film this TV show, I didn't have any more. I didn't bring them. I didn't have a refrigerator or anything to take it with. So I went back into mania and hypomania.
Really? You think that really affects you that much, huh?
Uh-huh. And well, it's what it is. It's a miscommunication of the emotional campus in the brain. It's the degradation of the connection. So the easiest way for me to explain it is, do you know what a runaway variable is in a computer? So you tell your computer to count, and you just want it to count to 10, but you program it to count. It'll count indefinitely. So see, someone that is bipolar, if they feel an emotion, once it crosses a threshold, the brain doesn't know how much or how to regulate that. So it'll just go until you blue screen to death. And it's, they call it a blackout, but it kind of helps it for those that are listening. It helps it make more sense if you put it in computer terms. Sure. So if a computer is not communicating right, well, you need to make sure the wires are crossed. Well, if you apply the same logic to your brain, what is your brain made of? It's made of fat. So if you don't have enough fat in your brain, well, there you go.
Yeah, man.
It's
it's crazy.
It makes sense.
It's crazy because it's not something I've just never been around it or ever had experience. I've heard of people that had bipolar, and you hear it's like mood swings and stuff like that. But the way you're describing it, like, where you're losing parts of your, memory where you don't even remember doing stuff over a long period of time. I was thinking maybe like an hour or something like that, not, months where you're just kind of.
I was a bad case.
Zombified.
I was a really, really bad case. Yeah. And I've had relatives that were type 1 and they fixed their diet, and they would lose an hour or two at a time. I met a couple people who would lose a couple weeks to a month at a time. So it just kind of varied per person. It depended on how much that degradation had happened.
Okay, so now, I have a lot of people that are going to be coming to watch this because they saw I posted up on Middleton, which is where I first heard about you on Facebook, that group, that I was going to be interviewing you, and asked if anybody had questions. So a ton of people threw in questions there and stuff, and they're going to want to know more about the adult industry. And it's funny because people, the adult video industry, it's funny because a lot of guys joke about how they would love to do it and that it would be cool to do. And I was hoping that we could talk about kind of the more realistic side of it, what it's actually like.
Oh, yeah.
What your work schedule's like, what it's like working with actresses and actors. Maybe, I don't know how it rolls. That's a huge question that everyone asks. Like, do you have to start out with gay porn? Because that's the myth out there, right? You know, these kind of things.
No.
So I don't know how you want to start this conversation. I will say this. I am not a like porn connoisseur, dude. I cannot name you any current like famous. I dabble like most dudes, you know, but there are dudes out there that can like name off porn stars and stuff like that. I'm not one of those people. And so it's interesting for me to have a conversation like this, and I'm hoping I get enough out of you for everyone out there that is porn connoisseurs that want to hear more of your story and more of what it's actually like in that industry.
Oh yeah, like we're definitely heading in that direction.
For sure.
So basically, chronologically, what ended up happening is when I ended up finally fixing myself, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do a different job. You know, like I was brand new in the industry. When you're brand new in the industry as a dude, you don't work a whole lot. You work for the really low budget tiers. You're usually like called in if they absolutely need somebody. Usually it's with someone that doesn't want to be there. It's with the crew that's like judging you. Like my DMs are flooded with people. Oh, I'm trying to get into your industry. How do I do it? I'm like, honestly, I don't think you'd be able to cut it.
Really?
I don't even know you. Like, I really don't. I honestly, truly don't. And I say this because one of my friends, he did a TV show where they're trying to find the next big male adult film star, and he told the producers, "You won't find anybody." And like, no, we're gonna audition like hundreds of people. He's like, "Yeah, you still won't find anybody."
What do you think cuts out most people from being able to do it, even if that's something they think they want to do?
I don't know, because like when I got in, I didn't know. I was like you. I didn't know who anybody was. I didn't actually initially try to get into the industry. I just kind of ended up in the industry.
Yeah.
I was just like, well, all right, I guess this is what we're doing. I never once in my life was like, I said, oh, I'm going to go be a porn star. Like that never came out of my mouth.
So,
and
I was gonna say, so how do you find these initial jobs in? Like, are they reaching out to you? Are you reaching out to people, or is it like?
I ended up getting an agent.
Okay.
So after I did my first one, I ended up getting an agent, and so that's how I ended up getting in.
Okay. What are you looking for in an agent?
I mean, there's really not that many options.
Oh, really? Not too many options out there for agents for the adult film industry?
I mean, you probably got like 4 or 5.
Really?
And there's really only like two ones that you could really run with.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's not what most people think. Like everyone's a champ in their bedroom, but when you've got everybody's paycheck that is relying on you to do your job, because it's not just you. If you can't perform, girl doesn't get paid, director doesn't get paid, the PAs don't get paid, like the lighting guys don't get paid. Depending on how big the set is, nobody gets paid.
Yeah.
And then, so if you fail, then that director is going to talk to other people. They'd be like, "Hey, don't hire this guy. It's a no bueno," and you're done before it even started.
Well, what do you consider a failure?
So just like any field, any career, anything, you have to you're creating a product to sell. Mm-hmm. If you fail to create a product that can sell, you have failed.
Okay. No, I get that. So, I mean, it's such a weird, it's such a taboo. I don't want to say weird. It's a taboo topic. You know what I'm saying? And
there's this big misconception of what most people think it is and what it really is.
It's a job. You know, and I like how you're explaining it. Like, it's not like you're not just out banging chicks. You know, it's like you're doing a job, and people are literally like their careers and their livelihood depend on it. Kind of like everyone's giving Tom Cruise either praises or flacks, or throwing shit at him because of like his rant, last week about the movie set that he was working on. But he's kind of right. Like, hey, we're providing these jobs here because of this movie set, and that's why we're doing it. And I don't want to. But that I think people forget about that. You're not just out banging chicks out. You're actually doing a job here. What are some of the pressures that people don't realize, besides the, hey, everyone's relying on you to go make a good scene here? Like, what other outside pressures people don't understand?
So I'll put it in a guy's perspective, a brand new person. So this is stuff I went through when I first got in. When you get there, nobody knows who you are. And so you're going to work with girls that don't know you, don't really care to know you. They don't want to be on set. So they're not going to help you do anything. So imagine you don't know who the director is. You don't know who anybody is on set. you don't even know how a scene is supposed to
Hmm.
go. You think you do, but you really
Yeah.
don't. You can watch as much as you think, and you think you know from how much you consume, but you really don't know. And so now you have to go and perform with someone that doesn't really want to work with you, a crew that wants to get out of there, and a whole team of people that are pretty much judging you on can you even do this? And it's not like it's quiet or anything. You're lit up like the 4th of July. Like
Stage lighting
you've
and
got
everything.
so many lights around on you. Everything's blown out, you know, so it's like
Eh,
and then it's just and you're not doing anything comfortably. And you're not banging in a normal position. You're like completely open up to, so the camera can
yeah,
see.
that's true. Yeah.
So it's a completely foreign aspect. You're not your body and your mind's not trained to do it that way.
So, oh, go
So
ahead.
so my buddy that did this, they auditioned like hundreds of guys. And he told us there's not a single one that's going to be able to do it. And he said he'll be surprised if one person could even get it up.
Really?
They had one person out of the hundreds actually get it up, and this was a girl that wanted to do it. Like it's not like she was being bitchy about it. She wanted to. They had one person get it up, and before he could bring it in, he
No
lost it.
way. I mean, dude, I've never had sex in front of a whole group of people, especially when there's lights on me, camera on me, all these other things that you're probably thinking about. Where's the camera operator? He's got the camera over my shoulder. I could see it, or something like that. I don't know. I guess.
Oh, that's another thing. So those where do you think the camera is?
Yeah.
It's where your
Yeah.
head is. So you're not like this having a good like pretending like you're not like this having a good time. You're actually leaning back as far as you can with your head up and moving.
Oh, really? So you're trying to get
Yeah.
out of the way for the camera operator too, huh? Damn, man.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy. So in the industry, are you guys using, medicines and stuff to help you out? Are you guys on the blue pill? Like, does that help out, or is that like a big thing?
So in my experience, you got to do what's right for your body. When I first got in, I was told to take the blue
Hmm.
pill. That blue pill fucked my world up.
Yeah.
I was 250-pound bodybuilder. I was also 250 pounds fat. My legs were massive. When I was taking that pill, the first little bit of my scene was great, but I'd always lose
Hmm.
them because all the blood was going to my legs.
That's crazy. I've never heard that before. I didn't know it was an issue.
I don't, everybody's different, but like I don't know why. That's just what it did. So I quit taking it, and I'm all natural. I went back to like I treat my work like a professional athlete. I'm gonna go fight. Like what I would do before a fight, that's what I do for work. My diet's on point. I'm super healthy. Like I don't consume anything that I wouldn't consume if I was gonna go fight a big fight.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, I treat it like it's like it's a job, like it's a mission to complete, like mission mindset from the Marine Corps. And then I train like I'm an athlete, like jujitsu, and that's how I approached it. And since then, I was like last year I was shooting 2 scenes a day before COVID, every single
Wow.
day, and these were virtual reality scenes. The most I've shot in a day were 3 scenes in a day.
That's crazy, man. I was gonna ask like what the average amount that you're filming twice a day, huh? Does that ruin like regular sex for you after that? I mean, do you just like ugh?
I'm not having regular sex. I'm having
That's
work
it,
sex.
huh?
I got a girlfriend. I love my girlfriend, and nothing can beat having sex with her at home. And oh my, it's the
Yeah.
best. But you can't like it's work and home is completely separate,
Yeah.
and like I don't think people understand that. But I think if they understood that, it would ruin the illusion of what it is.
Yeah, no, that's probably true, man. I mean, the way you talk about it, how you have to like prepare yourself as like you're almost an athlete. I mean, you do. You're like you're saying, every light, camera, everything is on you and her. Like every flaw is going to be exposed, and I'm sure some of the viewers are extremely judgy, of these different films and stuff like that. Like the pressure has got to be immense. So yeah, I can see how the difference between your work and life would be. Obviously different, between those two scenarios. It just, I don't know. I like working on my car, but when I was a mechanic, I didn't like coming home and working on my car as much. You know what I'm saying? It was just one of those things. That's how work is. So I think that's one thing a lot of people are afraid of, is that it would ruin it for them. Have just sex in general for them. But I don't know. Maybe it doesn't.
Well, in the Marines, you're taught, when you get home, you leave the pack at the door. I do the same thing.
Supposedly, yeah, you're supposed to.
Yeah. Well, I'm really good at that, and I leave the pack at the door.
So I want to ask you, someone put on the website about a Barstool Sports article from, I'm going to mess her name up, Asa Akira. I don't know if you've read that. She wrote a about the porn industry and stuff like that, and the recent takedown of like a ton of films off Pornhub, and how that's like kind of, there's a misconception of what you guys do and what the industry is, and how what people think, they see that as a good gesture and helping with child pornography and trafficking and stuff like that is actually adverse to what, you know, they're actually trying to accomplish, because it's driving people more into the underground of doing porn, rather than keeping it mainstream on something like Pornhub. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know it's more of a serious topic, but it's one that your industry, obviously, the people care about dearly.
Here's what I would put at it is the tube sites essentially killed the industry to begin with. If it wasn't for the tube sites, I would probably be a very, very successful millionaire at this point. Just the amount of money that performers were making back in those days versus having everything being up there on free on the tube sites. So, also with the tube sites, like I personally, I think like the tube sites, you're never going to get rid of the tube sites. Like they're there, the internet's there. You're not going to get rid of them. You're not going to get rid of the adult industry. I think they should put a $1 charge on every tube site just for age verification. Because you got like a whole generation of people that they see it and they think banging your stepmom or your stepsister is like a thing. Yeah. And I was like, no, it's stupid. It's fake. But when you're young, you don't know any better. So if they were to able to put a credit card charge in order to even view it, even like $1, and they could even refund the $1 if it's that big of a deal. But it's like verify that count is there. So it's I mean, it's not going to stop every case, but it's going to limit it for a lot of people that are underage, you know.
That's one step,
Yeah. I don't know where, I mean, I don't know much about the sex trafficking when it comes to like the tube sites. I know in the professional industry, dude, we get contracts. We do video agreements like, hey, are you under the influence of any drugs or alcohol? And do you consent to having sexual actions on, you might be known as a porn star for the rest of your life, and like this is all taken care of beforehand. Like we get scripts, we get, you know, it's like there is no secret in what you're doing. Yeah,
it's a legitimate industry.
And you know, it's like if I end up on set and a girl and I think she doesn't want to be there, I just call the scene. Like I'm like, all right, she doesn't want to be there. It's going to be a crap product. Like, let's just call it. Maybe she's having a bad day. Maybe she's, whatever the situation is. Like, you know, we'll just call it. Yeah. You know, it's not the end of the world. You know, like porn's not going away. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it sounds like, I mean, you're speaking from the side of the actual professional development and stuff like that. And I think the concern was mostly about like the people that are like, I don't know what you call it, if it's freelancing or whatever, they're trying to make their home videos or whatever. They're trying to make their own homegrown like industry or production company or something like that, and they may be going into some shady deals. Do you see that as a real problem for people that may be trying to come into the industry? They accidentally get sucked into one of those like bad deals like that?
Well, I mean, you're going to encounter this in mainstream as well. Like people will prey on people's hopes and dreams. Like it doesn't matter where you're at. Like go join an acting studio. Like a lot of acting studios are a bunch of bullshit that promise you greatness in mainstream entertainment, but like good luck. Like I went to an acting studio and they were great. Like I learned a lot about acting, but I was the only one that was working in that whole studio in the acting field.
Yeah.
You know, like you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like,
so you're saying that, you know, there's the grifters out there, they're like, hey, this person's going to pay to get acting lessons no matter what. I might as well pay, you know, take some of that money too, because they're never going to work no matter what anyways.
Yeah. So if you're looking at like, if you're someone that's preying off of hopes and dreams, it's like, you can't fix stupid. Like you can. I've got people using fake profiles of mine that they're using my military photos to con people into getting money. Really? Like for like once a week, I was getting some old lady that was like yelling and screaming at me because she gave me money and then I ghosted her. And I'm like, I have literally no idea. And so they're sending me screenshots of it, and I used to respond to them and be like, "Video, like, hey, this is me. I literally have no idea who
Yeah.
you are. Did you ever talk to me on the phone?" And like, no, this is the first time we're to actually talk. I was like, okay,
Well, there's your problem.
so you can't fix stupid. I think anything you can do to throttle the exposure to that. But I mean, I don't know how you'd actually stop the cause from it. Like, I think, like I said, put a dollar charge on all the tube sites so that there is no technically free porn. Like, you always have to pay, even if it's just $1. But that's just age verification, and then have verified accounts.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, if you're not a verified performer, what verified means is basically means you fill out your tax paperwork, your W-9s, and you get your QIDs and all that, and all the information up and loaded with the platform says this is who I say I am. And if I shoot a video with somebody else, I need to upload their verification paperwork so that who that person is it says they are is there in the system.
For sure.
Like that's just being a professional. You're a business. So if you're creating a video and putting it on the internet to make money, which is if you're putting it up on any tube site, you're going to get ad revenue or something. You're essentially a business. You should treat it like a business.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I think that's that's part of the problem is that they know that their money is coming from the ad revenue because of the way it's just, the internet has made everything free, or a lot of these things free now, or forced it to become free. So they have to get that money from the ad revenue, and doing something like what you're saying will obviously cut back on a lot of people because a lot of people are going to see like a adult film website and go, you know what, I'm not going to put my credit card information into that, which it's like a catch-22, like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of deal, and they got to make their money, but at the same time, they don't want to cut their audience. Yeah, man, it's such a crazy thing, and it's one of those things too. I knew when I was I had a gunny who said his son was like 14 or 15, and he caught him looking at porn. And instead of like being mad at him, he's like, "Look, dude, here's the websites you go to." Like he gave him like one or two like, trustworthy, I guess, websites that he wasn't afraid he was going to get like a virus off of. And I don't know. What do you? I can't be mad at him, I guess, because that's like one way to approach the situation. If you know he's going to be looking at it, at least lead him in the right direction. But at the same time, a plan like you're saying would stop that. Not even being able to have that option. What do you think about that?
Well, one, it would stop or at least help prevent the initial exposure to it. And so I think that's a good thing. I think if you ended up getting caught like that, you're at a crossroads from a parenting standpoint. This is my personal opinion. Whereas one, you say, "Oh, this is bad, you can't do this," and you take it away. Well, that's just going to make it so that they're going to, well, what's so bad about it?
What am I missing out on?
Now you're spiking the curiosity, and so they might not. Now they know that they can't do it with you knowing about it, so they're going to do it behind your back. So, would you rather guide them through the process of like, "Hey, you're too young for this. We don't recommend it. I can't stop you from doing it. This is what you need to know about it. This is why it's not good for you at a young age." And you go into actually why. And he says, if you do continue and this is something you want to do, go it through this route. That way you don't end up getting viruses and getting the computers and all that kind of stuff. I think education, providing all of the information, people are smarter than what you give them credit for. The only problem is a lot of people don't give everyone the information.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally agree with that. And I think I like the way you're approaching it. And I think I'd react similarly because it's like kind of discussing drugs or alcohol. It's like one of those things like, man, you're going to have the opportunity to do it on your own at some point when I'm not going to be able to stop it. But here's the reality of it. And I like that you brought up that, hey, you're too young for it. And it's kind of dangerous for a young child to be exposed to that. What are your thoughts on people that say that it gives a bad vibe overall to society because of how it portrays people, how people think they should be having sex and stuff like that? That's like a negative influence.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. Somebody's going to hate you for it.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, for one, I'd say for like the outward views of it, I think people need to realize that what you see on the actual tube sites or in professionals is not what it's actually like in personal life. So I think there's this big miscommunication on that, and I think that's because it's too easily accessed by younger age people.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So I think if they were able to throttle that, I mean, they can throttle it. Like, dude, they throttle social media posts like it's cool. They're like, we won't delete you. You just will only be exposed to like less than 0.5% of your fan base. Like, so you can throttle the exposure from it, and there's easy fixes you can do with that. So I think that would be a big thing to deter it. And a lot of people think that it's just like super hard, aggressive type stuff all the time. That's not really the case. I like sex positive things. I'm not one for causing pain in people. Like, I try to meet who I'm working with where they're at. Some people like it rougher. Some people think they like it rougher, and then they actually like it a lot more passionate. You gotta play to it to what each kind of scene it is. So when other people are looking into it, like, I can't tell you what to say because I don't know where they're coming from. Most people lash out because it's an outward reaction due to an internal feeling. So I don't know what they went through in their life. Maybe it's like some super religious wife that her husband was watching porn and they're not having sex. Now, are they not having sex because he was watching porn and that's what she's scapegoating it on, or is it because they're really just not happy and he's just looking for a way out? You're like, I can't answer that because most people have a different reaction, and it's usually an outward reaction due to an internal feeling.
No, I know what you're saying, and I see it honestly. I look at it as, you can say that, hey, porn can, it can mess up a healthy sex life or something like that. But you can also say that Instagram is horrible for self-esteem, and you could say Facebook. Like, there's all these. Everything can be used and viewed in a negative way. Like you said, there's people that hate every kind of thing. Obviously.
Well, people are really soft nowadays. Yeah? Like, it's no longer like, if you don't like something, right? Like, say you don't like a show, right? Oh, I don't like the show. You're just going to change the fucking channel, right? Nowadays, it's like, we don't like the show. We're like, oh, Joe Rogan. We don't like Joe Rogan.
Who else doesn't like it?
We should cancel his entire. Let's get rid of his entire program. Yeah. Let's completely delete him. Like, Joe Rogan's fucking awesome.
Trying to grab everybody.
You kidding me?
Yeah.
Like.
So there's a lot of like crazy categories within the adult film industry, like a ton. If you go on Pornhub and look at categories, just a ton of them for every kind of fetish out there. Is there any kind that you would not be willing to film? What's your like line?
I don't do anything that I don't want to do. Yeah. You can't pay me like, I'm not money motivated. Like, I like money. But there's no amount of money that's going to get me to do something I don't want to do.
Have you been asked to do something that you didn't want to do?
Oh, I got, like, before I even got into the industry, I was getting poached by, I was getting hit up to do gay porn.
Really?
And I was like, yeah, no. I was like, no.
So that's not the entry.
But they're really sly. They're really sly on how they do that. Like, I know some guys who got conned into it, and some of them end up in my DMs like, how do I transfer? I'm a straight guy doing gay porn, but I want to be on the straight side. I'm like, well, it's kind of a little too late at this point.
Really?
But yeah, because most girls don't really want to work with someone that they think is into dudes.
Really? Okay. That's completely.
Would you?
I mean, dude, I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't know. No, I wouldn't, obviously.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's say you're a chick. Would you want to work with a dude that is into dudes that's not into chicks?
Yeah.
But you're booked together, so you have to do it. You're like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's just such a weird dynamic, and that's like the only reason I even ask is because that's the misconception is all these dudes think that you have to do gay porn to get into the regular porn. So you're saying they rope them into that, and then they never make it into the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a scam, and they're really smart with how they do it. So what they'll do is they'll fly you out there, right? And they'll book you with like a blowjob or something. And so they won't even use the footage. The companies won't even, like the gay company, they won't even use the footage of the girl blowjob. But now that you're staying out there, you gotta pay rent, So they'll sit you up. You gotta pay this amount. So they'll do like a couple blowjobs and now it's run dry. But now you owe them rent money. And it's like, well, I mean, I have this job. I mean, it's a dude and he's going to suck your dick. So, I mean, you could look at straight porn with it, but it pays way more. Like it pays double or triple what the girl sucking your dick was gonna pay. And so then the guy's like, "Well, I do need money." It's like, "Well, I'm in a bind," and then so I
Man,
could see
it's an
like
act of
people can get
desperation,
tricked
huh?
into it. Yeah, like they'll well think about it. A gay dude's best wet dream is converting a straight
I
guy.
don't know. Is
You
it?
know, if you, oh yeah, I mean, if you understand like the yeah, but anyhow, their whole vision is converting a straight guy to being gay. Like that's like that's like
Well,
their
you right
vision.
there. You've just opened
So
up the industry to so many other people that initially thought they would have to slide into that gay side first. So there you go.
no, no, don't do anything you don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean that's just good life advice. Stop doing stupid shit to feel like you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be. I don't know. What are your like? Do you have blooper reels? Do you put out blooper reels at all? I know I have seen blooper reels before. And is it something that you think like? Tell us some funny stuff that you see that happens on set.
I don't think I'm in any blooper reels to be honest
No.
with you. Like, so what I did is, so I got a funny story, and this involves a UFC fight pass. And so this is how I actually. Everyone thinks they're a champ in the bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I first got in, I thought I was really good. I thought I was doing pretty good. And then I heard there was this black belt. There's this director that was a jujitsu black belt, and I was like, okay, well, I just wanted to fight him just to see if he was legit or if he was full of
Mm-hmm.
shit. And there's this other performer that was talking a lot of shit about how good he was at jujitsu. So I was like, okay. So I ended up showing up to the gym. Well, the black belt was 100% sure I wasn't going to show up, so he went and caught a movie with his kids. So I ended up grappling with the world champion and then this other performer. Well, I submit the world champion, and this is my first time grappling in 10 years since I broke my back, or however long it was. And so then I fight the other guy. Well, I ended up becoming friends with this black belt director, and I never ever hit him up for work. I just wanted to train jiu-jitsu with him. Well, I worked for free as a PA for 2 months for
Mm-hmm.
him. Like for free. Do you know how many people would work for somebody for free for two
Yeah,
months?
not many.
Yeah, not many. And I did that because I wanted to know what I could do to get better in front of the camera by understanding what everything that went into it behind the
Yeah,
camera. So I got to see how the pros that have been doing this for 10 plus years were doing it and what the camera is looking for. Because the camera is always looking for the
yeah,
angle. So you know how to
for
set it
sure.
up, then you'll do better. So I worked for free. And so I did that for 2 months for free, completely changed my entire game. And then that was like the thing so I don't think I'm on any blooper reels because after that, I started performing like I've been in the industry for 8, 10 years. But monkey see, monkey do. Like I saw and I learned from what the really, really good guys have been
Mm-hmm.
doing and how they angle and position everything. And so I just repeat and then kind of make it
Yeah,
my
just learn
own.
all the technical stuff. What are they looking for? What's the best angle for the camera and stuff like that. What a oh man, it's got
Mhm.
a what a weird job to have that you're like thinking about. Okay, is this a good angle for the camera while you're like in the process of just banging some chick? Like I mean, I don't know.
But it's a
It's a
job.
job. Hey, you know
Yeah,
what? At least
I
you're getting
separate
paid.
it.
There's a lot of people out there that wish they had a job. At least you're out there getting paid. How is COVID?
I write my own schedule.
That's cool. How has COVID affected you? And well, real quick before we talk about COVID. Before that, were you like a freelance kind of guy? You just go to jobs, or are you under contract through production companies? Like, how does that work?
So I'm under contract with my agent, but technically my contract is up with my agent. But I still go through my agent just because he's done right by me, so I'll do right by
Yeah.
him. I- I'm always I always try to be like a good person, no matter what,
And it
Like
it's
it's
crazy how being a good person, how far that'll get you. How little there of those there are out there sometimes.
I tell you this. So I've had my successful friends in the industry that I've hang around, and they kind of set the precedence. And they see someone out there that needs money for like a bus ticket or they're out of gas or something like that. I've seen these guys literally like, oh yeah, how much you need? And they're like, oh, like 5, 10 bucks. They'll give them like 40, 50
Mm-hmm.
bucks. Like here, like go take it. Like they always give it back. They're really nice. I've done that with like mainstream people or other people that I know are wealthy, and they just kind of brush everybody
Mm-hmm.
off. I'm like, so why is it that someone that's in the adult industry is more humane to help other people out than people that can afford it in other industries, but yet people look down on us in this industry.
It's just that
That doesn't make
that
sense to
taboo
me.
topic, man. People don't like to talk about what's going on
Yeah.
inside the bedroom. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so how has COVID affected you and like production? Are you guys still doing it? Are you guys doing COVID specific scenes all masked up and stuff like that, like playing on it a little bit, like porn likes to do?
So when COVID first came out, me and my girl, we took 6 months off. And honestly, that was like people either got closer together in COVID or they got farther
Yeah,
apart.
for sure.
And me and my girl, we ended up becoming like super, super close. Like I freaking love my girl. Like we play video games. We do literally everything together. And so when we went back to work, I get tested every single day for COVID. Every single person on set gets tested every single day. So we mitigate it as best as possible.
I guess it probably wasn't. I mean, your industry gets tested a lot, anyways, right, for STDs and stuff like that. So was there already?
So this is my complaint.
Go ahead.
So I get these comments. I get these comments every once in a while. I was like, oh well, you're just begging to get chlamydia or something like that, or you're just begging to get, like some STD, right? And my response is always the same. I was like, I get tested so often. I'm more likely to catch something by being around you. Because when was the last time you got tested? Most people get tested once, maybe twice a year, if that.
Yeah, if that.
I'm getting an STD test every 2 weeks because every 2 weeks is if someone were to get HIV, you would be able to pick it up on a test in 2 weeks before passing it on to somebody else.
I think that's something some people don't realize, that the amount of, that's what I was going to say. Like, you guys are already tested so much for that. Was it easy to kind of come into, okay, well, this is just, one more test or whatever? Or was it different being tested for this than for like HIV or something?
These ones, in order to get the next day results, you got to be there. I get tested. It's almost, I feel like when you get up super early, you kind of feel like you're back in the Marine Corps. So I've been getting up at like 5:30 in the morning just to go get tested for COVID for the next day. So now like my whole schedule's flipped around to where it hits like 9, 10 o'clock at night, I'm ready for bed. But because of the COVID testing, you get up early to get tested and you don't start till late. So usually you're not getting done shooting till really late anyways.
So you got long days now, huh?
Sometimes.
Have you guys been
I shot the Black Friday special for Brazzers, and that was like a 12 or 16-hour day.
Really? Man.
Some days are really,
how do
really
you
long.
keep it going all day like that, man? Like how? I mean, yeah. What are some tips?
Like I said, I'm
what are some tips out there for the guys that want to be more like a porn star, their favorite porn star?
Clean up your diet, work out, be healthy. Like, take care of your body. You only got one, it's like look at nutrition. Like, what's your blood type? What foods work well for you? What foods don't work well for you? If you have to have a pill to get them up, well, there's something wrong. That's not normal. It's not like all of a sudden mankind needs a pill to do something. It's American culture to take a pill to fix shit.
Yeah, it's so weird. I know a lot of guys that got out of the military. That's like a big thing that guys claim when they get out is ED and stuff. And they're like, well, you get disability for it and you get, free, pills for it or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I guess like if like you're into that, I mean, if that's what you want to do, they do it as in like an enhancement rather than like a need, which kind of seems, I don't know. It seems like a bad thing because it feels like if you stop using it, then you're going to be really bad off,
So here's the transition of what happens is you get, and there's a problem with a lot of male performers in the industry right now. So what happens is they'll start off using the blue pills, and they don't realize it's all mental. Think about like how the male performers were before even the blue pill was a thing.
Yeah.
They didn't have that. Like it's all here. So I became friends with like John Strong and a lot of the veterans who are like that. And so when I ended up when I first got in, I was told to take it. And as I said before, and when I quit taking it, everything worked better. But I eat super, super healthy. I work out really well. I'm at peace in my head. I got peace in my life. I don't let drama in my life. Like I'm I'm the like first time there's like negativity, I'm the first person to cut it out. You
Yeah.
know, like I just don't deal with stupid
Yeah.
shit. I don't got
That's
time for it.
awesome, man.
And
Go ahead.
and so what happens is you get these new guys that come into the industry, and so they start taking a bunch of pills. Well, you're like 18, 21 to 25, like in between that time, and you're taking pills to get your dick hard. I'm like, it works. Your dick works just
Yeah.
fine. You know, like, and then what happens is so they start taking that, and then you need to start taking more. There's one I heard of some dude taking like 6
Oh
freaking
my
pills.
God.
I was like, that's horrible. And so then the next stage after that is you got what's called and you inject. It's called Caverjack, and you use a needle and you inject it into your dick, and that's what
Oh
gets them
my
hard.
God, dude. No way.
So it'll keep it hard for 2 hours. Well, that actually starts wearing off over time because it starts deteriorating the valve that's down there. So, and the doctor recommendation of using that is 3 to 4 times a week max. Well, you got guys that are using it 1 to 2 times a day, almost every single day. So, and these are young people. So when that quits working, and it does eventually quit working, like it will last for 2 hours, and all of a sudden you barely keep it up. And just because you're using that and you keep it hard for 2 hours, you still can't do some scenes. Some scenes, like look at a 16-hour day. You can't Caverjack to do that through the whole day.
Yeah.
It won't work. Like you can't just keep reshooting it up. It's not it's not going to work. And so you're kind of limited yourself to scenes that have to be done within that time frame. And so anyhow, so after that happens, then when that doesn't work anymore, if you still want to be in the industry, you got to get what's called a mechanical pump. So you have to go in and have surgery, and they replace everything on the inside with a pump and a saline pouch that's up inside you, and you get an extra nut, which is essentially a pump,
What?
and it pumps it up.
I have
Yeah.
never heard of this. There's people that are out there doing this, like acting, like out. Oh my God, dude! What a horrible place to be in. Like where you're having to like put a pump inside your body like that. Jesus, that's crazy, man. I guess if that's not like a nice warning to not go down that road, just to be as like an enhancement rather than a need, then I don't know what else could be.
So I talked to John Strong, and we both have the same outlook on it. We're like, the day I have to put a needle in my dick to get him hard is the day that I
For
quit.
sure, man. Jesus, I can't even imagine doing that one time, let alone like daily. You know, like that cannot be. I don't know. That just sounds absolutely horrible. I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that, to be honest. That just sounds horrible. So I had a couple more questions from the guys that I threw up on the website for them to ask. One person, they wanted to know, well, I think a lot of people want to know, what's up with all the stepsis, stepmom stuff? Like, what's up with this genre?
Bro, I hate that shit. That shit is so stupid.
Weird.
And I can tell you know where it comes from? They hire these writers from other countries to write the scripts, and they think that's hot because that seems to be a trend. And so then they write the scripts for it, and then the studios get it, and then that's what they do.
That's what.
It's so stupid.
I remember when I first started seeing it like trending, like it started being like a thing. You'd start seeing the videos. I'm like, who is watching this? Like, what the hell? Like that doesn't sound cool at all.
Oh, it's not like a lot of times it's not even realistic. There's a guy that we're the same age, and I've played his dad, and he's played my dad. And I'm like, I don't know how anybody's actually going to buy this, but whatever. Why are we even doing these scripts?
That's funny.
I've seen it start to go down a little bit, and I honestly I just hope it goes away. It's literally stupid.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't know. It's just such a weird genre, and it's like one of the things that multiple people told me I needed to ask about, like why that was a thing. So I want to make sure to get that out of the way. And then the last one is who has given you the best BJ on camera?
I don't remember the best, but I remember the worst.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't want you to have to smear anybody on the podcast.
I won't say any name. I won't say names because there's this other thing in the industry where it's like you do great 100 times, but you have one bad scene. That's the one everybody knows about.
That's how you end up on a blooper reel.
Yeah. So like you can't have bad. If you want to be successful, you can't mess up. So good luck going in, working with a girl you don't know, with a crew that you don't know, that doesn't want to be there, and not messing up. Because if you do, you're done.
100%, man. So do
And
you plan on keep going with this? Is this like your long-term career? Do you got anything else on the horizon, or?
I'm always working on other things. I've always had this principle: the second I'm working a job, I'm always working on the next
Yeah.
job.
Well, I mean, you're for sure.
Always.
You're obviously doing well at what you're doing. You won an award this last year at the AVNs, which is the adult video awards that they have. For those that don't, that's the industry thing that they do out in Vegas. So congratulations on that, I guess. And
Thank
then
you.
I hope your career continues to grow, and whatever you plan on doing after that is great as well. Is there any kind of like parting advice you have for anyone that? First off, I want to say I brought you on the show because, like I said before, a lot of people that come on the podcast are these like combat vets. They've done these crazy stuff and it's extreme and stuff like that. But that's not the only thing that people do in the military. And getting out and going and getting a corporate job or whatever, or going back to your hometown is not always the thing that people do when they get out of the Marine Corps either. And I want to highlight your story because it's just another example of something different than somebody's doing, and you're obviously happy with it. It makes you happy. You said you're at peace. You're doing what you want to do. You're making money and stuff like that, and I think that's really awesome. Who cares what the haters say? It's your life, and you want to do that industry. That's awesome, man. And I'm glad you're happy with it. And I'd like to, at the end here, if you want to shout out anyone or anything like that, or give any kind of parting advice for maybe veterans that are getting out of the military and transitioning, or people that want to get into your industry, or any last words you have.
Okay, so getting out of the military, I've actually, my staff sergeant, he actually hit me up for advice on how to adapt to it. He admitted he's institutionalized. Yeah. And it's really rough for everybody that's getting out of the military because you're going from pretty much controlled chaos to fucking chaos. And the best piece of advice I can have is if you can financially afford it, take 3 to 6 months off, live your life, don't jump straight into another job. Go hang out with people all over wherever you're trying to set up shop at. Just go hang out and get to know people that aren't in the military. So because there's a completely different dichotomy in relationships from being in the military to out of the military. Before you do anything, that's the number one thing I would say.
Yeah, you got to ease back into the civilian world.
Yeah, just take 3 to 6 months off and play. That does not mean like get on your fucking computer or gaming console and game for 3 to 6 months. Get out there and be social. Don't be a fucking lazy piece of shit. Just because you drink a lot in the Marine Corps doesn't mean that's acceptable to drink a whole bunch as a civilian. Like you're transitioning to a new phase in life. Like get off your fucking ass and do something. Like what if you were to turn off all electronics in your house for 3 months? What would you do? Like approach it with that mindset. Turn off all electronics in your house when you get out for 3 months. You would probably go find some friends and go do something. And I bet you there'd be a whole lot less depressed people if people actually did that.
For sure, man. I think that's a really great advice. I did something like that when I got out, not long after I got out. When I first started this podcast, the first couple episodes, I think first 5 or 6 or something like that, I actually took a cross-country road trip. And I just wanted to see stuff that I wanted to see, and I spent 2 weeks on the road by myself. And I stopped at buddies' houses that I served with in the Marine Corps, and I sat down and record a podcast with them, and then, couch surf for a day or two with them, and then move on to the next place. And, I thought that was like you said, you got to break away from it and kind of ease yourself back into the real world because it's definitely different, and the expectations of you are lessened out in the real world, and I think that's hard for some people to get over. You know what I'm saying? That they're around people that there's really no expectations. There's no one holding people accountable, and it makes you kind of depressed. And that's why people start to miss the Marine Corps, I think, is there's no one holding them accountable, and there's not that like camaraderie from that. Yeah, man, for sure, for sure. So,
and I would say the second thing is, because everyone knows about this OnlyFans thing. I've given lots of advice to people doing it. But I think people really need to know what the ramifications are of that. Because if someone's in the industry and they're in, and I will help you out with what I know. And basically, what's happening is if you're a girl and you're using your audience and you're starting an OnlyFans, your first month or 2 is going to be really great, because that's everyone that's in your social circle that wanted to see you naked. So boom, they're going to pay for it. But after they've seen it, if you're not putting out really good content or they've already seen you naked, they've already screenshotted everything, or they've already saved all the videos, they're not going to subscribe the next
Yeah.
month. So then you're going to have a drop. And so you're going to have to start advertising to a new market. So people think that this OnlyFans thing is a way to make a whole bunch of money. I was like, it's great if you have a big audience and then you do it. Yeah, you'll make a lot of money. But for someone that doesn't have a big audience, you'll make a lot of money at first, and then it's going to dwindle down. And this is where it's going to affect you in the long run, because that stuff's going to be on the internet forever. So I don't recruit. I don't recruit people in the industry. Guys that hit me up all the time, I don't recruit because, like, statistically, 99.9% of you are going to fail on a set, and I'm not going to put my name on that. And I don't think you want to experience failure like that, because it's kind of demeaning to a man's ego.
Jesus, I bet.
So, so like it's just best to avoid that situation. I mean, if that is something that happens to you and you're meant to do this job, then I'm sure it'll, like, I mean, I lost a bet filming a TV show that I shouldn't have even been on, so it's like, if you're meant to do it, it'll happen, like, if you're a girl that's getting into the industry, I won't recruit. I'll point in the right direction after I strongly recommend you don't. And I really think the minimum age to be in the industry should be 21 at least.
Yeah. Why is that? Just the mental growth,
What were you doing when you're 18?
Oh, man. I was working at McDonald's still, graduating high school.
All right.
Yeah, not the smartest dude in the world.
I joined Marine Corps when I was 19 because I knew I didn't have the discipline to actually live.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how many 18-year-olds out there that have the mental capacity to actually take on a career of that actually know what the long-term ramifications
For sure.
are.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and the same thing can be argued, people getting recruited in the military. A lot of people think that the age should be raised too, because they think people are joining out of, I don't want to call it ignorance, but, naivete or whatever you want to say, like where they're just, it's not what they thought it was going to be, once they got in.
I joined at 19, and it was the best decision I ever made. But I knew that I didn't have the personal discipline to go to college. I didn't have the personal discipline to actually succeed in life. And the Marine Corps taught me the tools that I needed to succeed in life.
For sure. Well, that's cool.
So
yeah, man. So, do you want to shout out like any of your productions or anything? Or where can people find you? I mean, I have for the video, my people on YouTube, your Instagram and Twitter's on screen for my audio listeners. Where can they find you?
On Instagram, it's iWillPounder. It's all in the name. And Twitter, it's the Will Pounder.
That's a great man. I mean, what a great stage name. I didn't even ask. How did you come up with that?
So my real name was Will, and I wanted to, if someone calls me, I want to be able to respond. If they're calling me by a name that's not me, I'm going to ignore them, and then I come off like an asshole. So, and I was like, all right, what's something funny that goes with Will?
That's funny.
I was like, Pounder. And I was like, Will Pounder. Oh, that's hilarious. That's all in the name.
I'm surprised that wasn't taken. That's such a good name.
There's actually someone had the Instagram and Twitter handle Will Pounder, and he hit me up. He ran a podcast for like 10 years, said it was the greatest male porn star name, but no one ever did it. And then I did it. And so like I ended up chit-chat with him on the phone, and I was like, he wants to sell me the handles, but I was like, I don't know, man. I kind of like my handles.
Yeah, I Will Pounder is pretty funny.
I don't know if I want to change it,
Oh, my dog just bumped my camera. That's what happened there. That's funny. Well, man, I guess that's, unless you have anything else you want to leave on, I guess that might be it.
Cool. That's good.
Well,
man.
I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments and stuff. If people have questions, feel free to put them in the comment section in the YouTube video. As always, hit up my Instagram page at Former Action Guys and at J Kramer Graphics. My website's jkramergraphics.com. This is the Former Action Guys podcast, and I will catch you guys on the next episode.